The massive space station hung in the void like a gleaming metal city. Ships from dozens of different worlds came and went through its docking bays. Inside the Grand Council chamber, representatives from the most powerful civilizations in the galaxy gathered for their monthly meeting. The Krex delegate was a tall creature with thick gray skin and 4 arms. His species had conquered half the galaxy through brute force over the past 1,000 years. Next to him sat a Vorth looking like a walking insect with glowing blue eyes. The Vorth collective was known for their advanced technology and cold logic. At the head of the table floated a Zephyrian, an ancient being of pure energy contained in a crystal shell. The Zephyrians had ruled space for 10,000 years before growing bored with conquest. "We have a new item today," announced the Zephyrian in a voice like singing crystals. "A young species from the Outer Rim has achieved basic space travel. They call themselves humans and their world is named Earth." The Krex snorted through his nose slits. "Another primitive race? How tedious. What do they want?" "They sent a small ship requesting to join our council as equals," the Zephyrian replied. "Their delegate is waiting outside." Laughter filled the chamber. The idea that a species barely capable of leaving their own solar system would demand equal treatment was amusing to beings who had mastered faster-than-light travel for millennia. "Bring them in," said the Vorth delegate, clicking his mandibles. "This should be entertaining." The doors opened and a human woman walked in. She was middle-aged with gray hair and wore a simple blue uniform. Her name was Ambassador Elena Rodriguez, though the aliens did not bother to ask. She looked around the chamber with curious eyes, showing no sign of fear or awe that typically marked first contact with younger species. "Welcome, primitive one," the Zephyrian said in a tone one might use with a child. "We understand your people wish to join our council." Elena stood straight and spoke clearly. "We request membership and recognition as a sovereign species with equal rights in galactic affairs." More laughter echoed through the chamber. The Krex delegate leaned forward, his forearms crossed. "Equal rights? Little human, your people still use chemical rockets. You have no understanding of real space travel, no knowledge of galactic law, no concept of the forces that shape this galaxy." "We learn quickly," Elena replied simply. The Vorth clicked in amusement. "Learning requires time. Your species is perhaps 50,000 years old at most. The youngest member of this council has been spacefaring for 200,000 years. You are infants playing with dangerous toys." Elena did not argue. She listened as the aliens explained how the galaxy worked. The Galactic Council maintained peace through strength. Young species were protected and guided by their elder races. In return, they provided resources, territory, and obedience. It was a system that had worked for millions of years. "Your world has been surveyed," the Zephyrian continued. "Earth possesses useful minerals and occupies a strategic location near several important trade routes. We offer you protection under our guidance." "What would this protection require?" Elena asked. The Krex pulled up a holographic document. "Standard terms for primitive species. Your military forces will be disbanded. All space-capable vessels will be turned over to Council authority. 70% of your world's resources will be allocated to Council use. Your people may continue to live on Earth under our supervision. And if we refuse?" The chamber fell silent. The question itself was shocking. No species had ever refused Council protection. Why would they? The alternative was to face the dangers of space alone, without guidance or support. "Refusal is not recommended," the Vorth said slowly. "The galaxy is full of threats that a young species cannot handle. Pirates, hostile empires, cosmic disasters. Without our protection, your people would not survive." Elena nodded thoughtfully. "How long do we have to consider your offer?" 30 standard galactic days, the Zephyrian replied. "This is generous. Most species are given only 10 days. "We appreciate your patience," Elena said with a slight smile. After she left, the council members discussed the humans with mild interest. Most young species accepted protection immediately upon seeing the power and technology of the council. A few tried to negotiate better terms. None had ever asked for 30 days to think about it. "Do you think they will refuse?" asked a delegate from the Malari Union, a species that had joined the council 300,000 years ago. "Impossible," the Krex laughed. "We showed them recordings of our fleets. Thousands of ships, each one capable of destroying their entire world. They may be primitive, but they are not insane." The Vorth was less certain. Their delegate showed no fear. Most young species are overwhelmed by their first visit here. She seemed almost calculating. Intelligence is good, the Zephyrian mused. Intelligent species make better servants once they understand their place. Meanwhile, Elena's ship raced back toward Earth. The journey would take 28 days at maximum speed, leaving little time for preparation if the answer was what she expected it would be. She spent the trip writing detailed reports about everything she had seen and heard. The council station was indeed impressive, but Elena had noticed things the aliens probably did not expect her to understand. The Krek's ships were powerful but slow and clumsy. The Vorth vessels were fast but lightly armored. The Zephyrian craft relied heavily on energy shields that might have weaknesses. Most importantly, all of them followed predictable patterns and seemed to think in rigid, conventional ways. When Elena reached Earth, she went straight to the emergency session of the United Earth government. World leaders had been waiting anxiously for her return. The room fell silent as she delivered her report. "They want us to surrender," she said simply. "Complete surrender of our independence, our military, our resources. They offer protection in return, but it means becoming their slaves." "What happens if we refuse?" asked the Secretary General. They did not say directly, but the implication was clear. "They would force us to comply. Can we fight them?" asked the military commander. Elena was quiet for a long moment. "Their technology is advanced and they have thousands of ships. In a direct confrontation, we would lose badly." "Then we have no choice," someone said. "Maybe we do," Elena replied. "They are old and set in their ways. They think in terms of massive fleets and overwhelming force. They have never faced an enemy that might use different tactics." The room buzzed with discussion. Earth's military leaders began pulling up classified files. For decades, they had been developing weapons and strategies for possible alien contact. Not all of those preparations assumed friendly contact. "How much time do we have?" asked the military commander. 30 days from yesterday," Elena replied. "Then we better get started." As news of the Council's demands spread across Earth, something unprecedented happened. For the first time in human history, every nation on the planet began working toward the same goal. Old enemies became allies. Resources were shared freely. The entire world focused on a single question: how do you fight gods? In secret facilities around the globe, scientists and engineers began working around the clock. They had 30 days to prepare for war against an enemy that controlled the galaxy. It seemed impossible, but humans had always specialized in doing the impossible. 29 days after Ambassador Rodriguez returned to Earth, her ship approached the Galactic Council station once again. This time she was not alone. 3 other human vessels accompanied her, each one bristling with sensors and recording equipment. The Council had been expecting a single ship carrying Earth's surrender documents. Elena walked into the Council chamber with the same calm confidence as before. The alien delegates looked at her with barely concealed impatience. In their experience, 30 days was more than enough time for any rational species to accept the obvious choice. "Have your people reached a decision?" the Zephyrian asked, its crystal form pulsing with soft light. "We have," Elena replied. She pulled out a simple paper document and read from it. "The people of Earth respectfully decline your offer of protection. We choose to remain an independent sovereign species." The silence that followed was deafening. For several long moments, none of the council members spoke. They simply stared at the human woman as if she had announced her intention to fly by, flapping her arms. The Krex was the first to recover. "You decline? Do you understand what you are saying?" "We understand perfectly," Elena said. "We appreciate your offer, but we prefer to make our own way in the galaxy." "This is madness," the Vorth delegate clicked rapidly. "Your species cannot survive alone. You lack the technology, the knowledge, the strength to protect yourselves. We will learn as we go," Elena replied with a slight smile. The Zephyrian's crystal form flared brighter. "Young human, you do not comprehend the forces at work in this galaxy. There are empires that would enslave your entire species for sport, pirates who would strip your world bare and sell your people as livestock, cosmic phenomena that could destroy your solar system without warning. Then we will face those challenges when they come. You will not survive to face them," the Krex growled. "If you refuse our protection, we cannot guarantee your safety. Other powers will see your world as undefended territory, free for the taking." Elena's expression did not change. "Are you threatening us?" "We are explaining reality," the Vorth said. The galaxy is not a safe place for children playing with toys. And if these other powers attack us? Then you will learn why protection is necessary, the Zephyrian replied coldly. Elena nodded slowly. I see. Thank you for making your position clear. She turned to leave, then paused. Oh, one more thing. We have established a defense perimeter around Earth. Any ship that enters our solar system without permission will be considered hostile. The aliens stared at her in disbelief. The idea that humans could establish any kind of meaningful defense perimeter was laughable. What could they possibly do with their primitive chemical rockets and crude weapons? After Elena left, the council members sat in stunned silence. Finally, the Krek spoke. They have made their choice. We gave them every opportunity to be reasonable. What do we do now? Asked the Malari delegate. We teach them why protection is necessary, the Zephyrian said. Prepare a punishment fleet. Nothing too large. We do not want to completely destroy them. Just enough to remind them of their place. How many ships? The Vorth asked. 50 vessels should be sufficient, the Kreks replied. A mix of destroyers and cruisers. Enough to overwhelm their defenses and force surrender without completely devastating their world. Within hours, the punishment fleet was assembled. 50 of the galaxy's most advanced warships prepared to teach humanity a lesson about the natural order of things. The fleet commander was a veteran Kreks general named Thrak, who had conquered dozens of worlds. He expected this to be the easiest campaign of his career. Meanwhile, Elena's ships raced back toward Earth at maximum speed. The message she carried was simple: 30 days to prepare for war. What the aliens did not know was that those 30 days had not been wasted. From the moment Elena returned with news of the Council's demands, Earth had transformed into something the galaxy had never seen before. Every major government activated secret protocols that had been in development for decades. Project Looking Glass brought together the world's best scientists to reverse engineer every piece of alien technology they could obtain from Elena's recordings and sensor data. Project Forge turned every major industrial facility on the planet toward military production. Project Unity dissolved national boundaries in favor of a single command structure. In underground facilities beneath the Sahara Desert, teams of engineers worked to adapt human nuclear weapons for space combat. The aliens might have energy shields and exotic materials, but they had never faced the raw destructive power of human fusion warheads. In laboratories hidden in the Antarctic ice, physicists studied recordings of alien ship movements and weapon signatures. They began developing countermeasures and defensive systems based on principles the aliens had never encountered. In orbital shipyards that had been secretly constructed over the past decade, workers assembled vessels designed specifically for one purpose: to kill alien ships. These were not exploration craft or cargo haulers. They were weapons, pure and simple. Admiral Sarah Chen stood in the command center of Luna Base watching the final preparations. She was 45 years old and had spent her entire career preparing for this moment. Every war game, every simulation, every training exercise had been leading toward this day. Status report, she called out. Defense grid is at 95% completion, reported her tactical officer. All orbital platforms are armed and ready. The asteroid belt installations are online. What about the fleet? 237 vessels ready for combat. Another 50 will be completed within the week. Sarah nodded. The numbers were not encouraging. Earth's entire fleet was smaller than some of the alien empire's patrol squadrons. But numbers were not everything. The humans had advantages the aliens did not expect. Intelligence reports. Long-range sensors have detected the alien fleet. 50 ships, just as predicted. They will arrive in 6 days. Estimated strength. Each ship is roughly equivalent to a small city in terms of firepower and defensive capability. Conventional analysis suggests they could destroy our entire fleet without taking significant casualties. Sarah smiled grimly. Good thing we are not planning a conventional battle. Across the solar system, final preparations continued around the clock. Hidden weapons platforms powered up for the first time. Asteroid miners transformed their tools into weapons of war. Even civilian ships were modified with armor and weaponry. The plan was insane by any rational standard. Earth's fleet would not try to match the aliens in a direct confrontation. Instead, they would use tactics that no civilized species had ever employed in space. They would fight dirty, take risks that no sane commander would consider, and exploit weaknesses that the aliens did not even know they had. On Mars, underground factories worked to complete a secret weapon that could change the entire battle. In the asteroid belt, miners prepared to turn their workplace into a death trap. On Europa, scientists made final adjustments to a device that could disable alien sensors. Most importantly, in command centers across the solar system, human officers prepared to do something that the galaxy had never seen before: fight a war with no rules, no honor, and no mercy. The aliens were coming to teach humanity a lesson about power and civilization. They had no idea that humans had spent their entire history learning how to kill things that were bigger, stronger, and more dangerous than themselves. In 6 days, the galaxy would discover that sometimes the students become the teachers. General Thrak stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the blue marble of Earth grow larger on the main screen. The Krex commander had conquered 17 worlds in his long career. Each one had surrendered after seeing the overwhelming power of his fleet. He expected this campaign to last perhaps an hour. "All ships report ready," his aide announced. "Shall we transmit the surrender demand?" "No," Thrak replied with satisfaction. "Let them see our full power first. They chose to refuse our mercy. Now they will learn the consequences." The 50-ship punishment fleet moved into Earth's solar system in perfect formation. Each vessel was over a kilometer long, armed with weapons that could crack continents and protected by shields that had never been breached. The aliens had faced thousands of different species over the millennia. None had ever presented a serious challenge. "Sir, we are detecting multiple contacts," the sensor operator reported. "Human vessels are approaching from several directions." Thrak looked at the tactical display with amusement. Dozens of small ships were moving toward his fleet from different angles. The largest was barely 300 meters long. Most were even smaller. It was like watching insects attack a giant. "How many total?" "Approximately 200 contacts, sir." "Wait. More are appearing from behind asteroids and planetary bodies. Current count is 250 and rising." "They brought their entire fleet," Thrak laughed. "Brave little creatures. Almost admirable in their foolishness." The human ships moved in patterns that confused the alien sensors. They did not maintain formation or follow any recognizable tactical doctrine. Some accelerated at maximum speed directly toward the alien fleet. Others moved in wide circles. A few seemed to be retreating while others advanced recklessly. "Sir, the humans are trying to communicate," the communications officer reported. "Put them through." A human woman appeared on the main screen. She wore a dark blue uniform with stars on her collar. Her face was calm and determined. "I am Admiral Sarah Chen of the Earth Defense Force," she said. "You have entered our solar system without permission. Withdraw immediately, or we will consider your presence an act of war." Thrak could not hide his amusement. "Little human, look at your screens. 50 ships of the Galactic Council face your primitive fleet. You cannot hope to win this battle. Surrender now and your world will be spared unnecessary damage." "Our answer is no," Sarah replied. "You have 10 minutes to leave our system." "Or what?" Thrak asked mockingly. "Or we will remove you." The transmission ended. Thrak shook his head in amazement. The courage was impressive, but courage without wisdom was simply stupidity. "All ships prepare for battle. Target their largest vessels first. Use minimum power settings. We want to disable them, not completely destroy them." "Sir, incoming projectiles," the sensor operator suddenly shouted. Thrak spun toward the screen. The human ships had opened fire, but something was wrong. These were not energy beams or plasma bolts. The sensors showed solid objects moving at incredible speeds. "Kinetic projectiles," the weapons officer reported with surprise. "Extremely dense, moving at significant fractions of light speed." "Shields up, all ships," Thrak ordered. "Primitive kinetics cannot penetrate our barriers." The first volley struck the alien fleet like hammers hitting glass. Most of the projectiles bounced harmlessly off the energy shields, just as expected, but a few punched through, striking armor plating with devastating effect. "How did they penetrate our shields?" Thrak demanded. "Unknown, sir. The projectiles appear to be made of materials that interfere with our barrier frequency." "No matter. Return fire. Show them real weapons." The alien fleet opened fire with energy beams that could melt mountains, but the human ships were not where they were supposed to be. They moved in chaotic patterns, never staying in one place long enough for a target lock. When the beams did hit, the results were strange. "Sir, we destroyed 3 human vessels, but they appear to have detonated their own power cores deliberately. The explosions damaged 2 of our escort ships." Thrak frowned. Suicide attacks were not unknown, but few species use them as standard tactics. Continue firing. They cannot keep this up forever. But the humans had more surprises. Several of their ships suddenly accelerated far beyond what their engines should have been capable of. They rammed directly into alien vessels at tremendous speed, their hulls loaded with nuclear warheads. Report, Thrak shouted as alarms blared across his ship. We have lost the destroyer's venom and talon. The humans are using ramming attacks with nuclear explosives. Our shields cannot stop the physical impact. Impossible. No civilized species fights this way. Sir, more contacts appearing. They were hiding behind the planet's moon. A new wave of human ships emerged from concealment. These were different from the first group, larger and heavily armored. They moved in tight formation directly toward the alien fleet's center. Admiral Sarah Chen watched the battle from her command ship, hidden in the asteroid belt. The first phase had gone better than expected. The aliens were clearly confused by human tactics. They expected organized formations and predictable strategies. Instead, they faced controlled chaos. Phase 2, execute, she ordered. The second wave of human ships opened fire with weapons the aliens had never seen before. Instead of trying to match alien energy weapons, human engineers had focused on what they did best: explosive destruction. Nuclear-tipped missiles streaked across space, followed by projectiles made from collapsed matter that could punch through almost any armor. More importantly, the humans were not fighting to win in any traditional sense. They were fighting to hurt the enemy as badly as possible before being destroyed. Every human ship that died took at least one alien vessel with it. Sir, we have lost 12 ships, Thrak's aide reported with growing panic. The humans are using weapons we have never encountered. Our tactical computers cannot predict their attack patterns. Thrak stared at the battle display in disbelief. His overwhelming force was being torn apart by primitive barbarians using suicide tactics and crude weapons. This was not how space combat worked. There were rules, protocols, civilized ways of conducting warfare. Sir, incoming transmission from the Council Station. Not now, Thrak snapped. Sir, it is from the High Command. They are demanding an immediate report on our easy victory. Thrak looked at his tactical display. In 20 minutes of combat, he had lost 15 ships and damaged a dozen more. The human fleet was almost completely destroyed, but they had made every death count. This was not victory. This was mutual annihilation. Tell them we are encountering unexpected resistance, he said finally. The battle continued for another hour. When it finally ended, General Thrak found himself in command of only 23 intact vessels. The humans had lost their entire fleet, but they had achieved something no species in galactic history had ever done. They had made the Galactic Council bleed. As his battered fleet limped away from Earth, Thrak realized that everything had changed. The humans had not fought like a civilized species. They had fought like wild animals backed into a corner, and they had proven that sometimes the wild animal wins. Back at the Council Station, the news of the battle sent shockwaves through the assembly. A primitive species had not only resisted but had inflicted casualties that would have been impossible against any civilized enemy. The Zephyrian's crystal form pulsed with angry light. How is this possible? 50 ships should have been more than sufficient. The humans fight without honor, the Krex delegate reported. They use suicide tactics and weapons designed only for destruction. They do not follow the accepted rules of warfare. Rules? The Vorth delegate clicked thoughtfully. Perhaps that is exactly why they succeeded. We have become so civilized that we forgot war can be uncivilized. The council chamber fell silent. For the first time in millions of years, they faced an enemy that did not think like them, did not fight like them, and did not fear them. And somewhere in the depths of space, radio signals carried news of the battle to every corner of the galaxy. Other young species heard the impossible story and began to wonder, if the humans could fight back, maybe they could too. The emergency session of the Galactic Council had been running for 3 days straight. Representatives from dozens of species filled the great chamber, their voices raised in heated debate. The news of General Thrak's defeat had spread across the galaxy like wildfire, and the implications were terrifying. Order! Order! The Zephyrian commanded, its crystal form blazing with frustrated energy. We must decide on a course of action. The Krex High Commander, a massive warrior named Gorthak, slammed his 4 fists on the table. The course is obvious. We gather the full might of the Council and crush these upstart humans before their rebellion spreads. Rebellion? clicked the Vorth Collective's prime calculator. They have not rebelled. They simply refuse to join us. There is a difference. Is there? Gorthak snarled. Already we have reports of other young species questioning our authority. The Talari Confederacy has begun militarizing their borders. The Nexus colonies have stopped paying tribute. If we allow this human defiance to continue, the entire galactic order will collapse. The chamber erupted in agreement. For millions of years, the Galactic Council had maintained peace through overwhelming strength. Young species were protected and guided by their elders. In return, they provided resources and obedience. It was a system that worked because no one had ever successfully challenged it. Until now. What do we know about their current capabilities? Asked the Malari delegate. Prime Calculator Zik-7 activated a holographic display. Our analysis of the recent battle reveals disturbing information. The humans possess weapons technology we do not fully understand. Their kinetic projectiles use materials that can penetrate our standard shielding. Their nuclear devices are far more advanced than we anticipated. Most concerning, their tactical approach is completely unpredictable. Explain, the Zephyrian demanded. Civilized warfare follows established patterns, Zik-7 continued. Fleet formations, target priorities, rules of engagement. The humans ignore all of this. They fight like animals. No strategy we can predict, no rules they will not break, no sacrifice they will not make. Then we match their savagery, Gorthak declared. Assemble the Grand Fleet. Every ship, every weapon, every warrior in council space. We will turn their entire solar system into dust and show the galaxy what happens to those who defy us. And how many ships would that require? Asked the Vorth. 12,000 vessels, Gorthak replied with satisfaction. The largest military force ever assembled. Nothing could survive such an assault. The number sent murmurs through the chamber. 12,000 ships represented the combined military might of dozens of species. It was enough firepower to destroy entire star systems. The cost would be enormous, the Malari delegate protested. Moving such a fleet, supplying it, coordinating the logistics, it could bankrupt half our member species. The cost of allowing human defiance to spread would be far greater, the Zephyrian replied coldly. We vote all in favor of mobilizing the Grand Fleet? The vote was unanimous. As the council session ended, emergency orders went out across the galaxy. Every species contributed their most powerful warships. The Krex provided their planet-killer dreadnoughts. The Vorth sent their quantum destroyers. The Zephyrians awakened ancient superweapons that had slept for millennia. Even species that rarely participated in military actions sent vessels to join the armada. Meanwhile, Earth was not standing still. Admiral Sarah Chen stood in the rebuilt command center on Luna Base, studying intelligence reports from across the solar system. The victory against General Thrax's fleet had cost them dearly. Earth's entire space navy was gone, along with most of their orbital defenses. But they had bought something precious with that sacrifice, time. How long do we have? She asked her intelligence chief. Long-range sensors detect massive fleet movements throughout council space. Based on the patterns, we estimate they are assembling a force of unprecedented size. Arrival time approximately 6 months, Sarah nodded grimly. 6 months to prepare for Armageddon. What about our new projects? Project Prometheus is ahead of schedule. The Mars facilities are producing 3 new ships per day. Project Sparta has weaponized the entire asteroid belt. Project Lazarus is, well, you should see it yourself. Sarah followed her aide through the corridors of Luna Base to a restricted section she had never visited. They passed through multiple security checkpoints before entering a vast chamber carved deep into the moon's core. What she saw took her breath away. The chamber was filled with massive construction bays, each one building ships unlike anything humanity had ever created. These were not the desperate improvised vessels that had fought Thrax's fleet. These were purpose-built weapons of war, incorporating everything humanity had learned from studying alien technology. We call them Reaper-class destroyers, the project director explained. Each one is designed around a single principle: kill alien ships as efficiently as possible. Sarah studied the nearest vessel. It was sleek and angular, with no wasted space or decorative elements. Every surface bristled with weapons or sensors. How many will we have? At current production rates, 800 vessels by the time they arrive, plus 1,500 smaller ships from our other facilities. Against 12,000. Yes, ma'am, but we have other advantages. The director led her to another section of the chamber. Here, teams of engineers worked on devices that defied easy description. Some looked like giant rings made of exotic materials. Others resembled crystalline structures that hummed with barely contained energy. What are these? Surprises, the director smiled. We have had 6 months to think about how to fight an enemy that outnumbers us 20 to 1. The answer is not to fight fair. Across the solar system, similar preparations were underway. Mars had been transformed into a fortress world, its surface covered with weapons batteries and shield generators. The asteroid belt now contained thousands of hidden weapons platforms, each one capable of destroying a capital ship. Even the outer planets had been militarized, their moons converted into ammunition factories and strategic bases. Most importantly, humanity had learned from their first battle. The aliens expected them to fight like civilized beings. Instead, they would fight like humans, dirty, desperate, and determined to make their enemies pay for every meter of space. As the months passed, reports reached Earth of the growing alien armada. Ships from across the galaxy converged on staging areas near Council space. The force being assembled was beyond anything in recorded history. Some vessels were the size of cities, others carried weapons that could crack planets. A few were so old and powerful that younger species whispered about them in fearful legends. They are not just sending a fleet, Sarah realized as she studied the latest intelligence reports. They are sending a message to the entire galaxy. Join us or be destroyed. Will it work? Her aide asked. Sarah looked out through the observation dome at the vast construction projects covering Luna's surface. In the distance, Earth hung like a blue jewel against the black of space. Somewhere out there, 12,000 alien warships were, coming to destroy everything humanity had ever built. I guess we will find out, she said, quietly. The final month before the alien arrival was marked by feverish activity throughout the solar system. Every human settlement, from the mining colonies in the asteroid belt to the research stations orbiting Jupiter, was converted for war production. Children were evacuated to underground shelters. Civilians were trained in basic combat and survival skills. The entire human race prepared for a battle that would determine whether their species would survive or be remembered only as a cautionary tale. On the day the alien fleet finally appeared at the edge of the solar system, Admiral Chen received a simple message from Earth's government. Do whatever you must. Humanity will not kneel. She looked out at the alien armada filling her screens and smiled. They thought they were coming to crush a primitive species that had gotten lucky once. They had no idea they were about to face an enemy that had spent 6 months learning how to kill gods. The real war was about to begin. The grand fleet of the Galactic Council stretched across space like a metal constellation. 12,000 ships from dozens of species moved in perfect formation toward Earth's solar system. At the center of this armada flew the Eternal Dominion, a Zephyrian super-dreadnought that was older than most civilizations. High Commander Gorthak stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the tactical displays with satisfaction. Never in galactic history had such a force been assembled. The combined firepower of this fleet could destroy 100 worlds. Against one primitive planet, it was absolute overkill. Sir, we are receiving a transmission from the human world, his communications officer reported. Put it through. Admiral Sarah Chen appeared on the main screen. She looked older than in their previous encounter, with new lines around her eyes and gray threads in her dark hair. But her voice was steady as she spoke. Commander Gorthak, I presume. I am Admiral Chen of the Earth Defense Force. You are trespassing in human space. Gorthak laughed, a sound like grinding stone. Human space? Little Admiral, you're looking at the greatest military force in galactic history. 12,000 ships, each one capable of destroying your entire world. Surrender now, and some of your people may be allowed to live as servants. Counteroffer, Sarah replied calmly. Turn around and leave. This is your only warning, or what? You will throw more suicide ships at us? We are prepared for your primitive tactics. No, Sarah said with a slight smile. We have learned new tricks. The transmission ended. Gorthak shook his head in amazement. Even facing total annihilation, the humans refused to show proper respect. Well, they would learn. All ships advanced to attack formation. Begin with long-range bombardment of their outer defenses. The alien fleet moved forward like a tide of death. Their sensors detected the expected human defensive positions, orbital platforms around the outer planets, weapons installations in the asteroid belt, defensive fleets hiding behind moons and planetary rings. It was more extensive than anticipated, but nothing that could stop 12,000 warships. "Sir, the humans are launching missiles," the weapons officer reported. "From this range? Impossible. No weapon can maintain target lock across such distances." But the human missiles were not behaving like normal projectiles. Instead of flying directly toward the alien fleet, they spread out in seemingly random directions. Some headed toward empty space. Others curved around planets and moons. A few appeared to be flying away from the battle entirely. "Ignore them," Gorthak ordered. "Primitive guidance systems. Continue the advance." The first sign that something was wrong came when the missiles began to change course. One by one, they turned and accelerated toward the alien fleet from unexpected directions. Their approach vectors were impossible. No conventional propulsion could create such flight paths. "Sir, those missiles are using gravitational slingshots around planetary bodies to alter their trajectories," the science officer reported with growing alarm. "They are approaching from angles our defensive systems cannot cover." "How many missiles?" "Current count is over 50,000 and rising." Gorthak stared at the tactical display in disbelief. The humans had turned their entire solar system into a weapon. Every planet, moon, and asteroid was being used to redirect projectiles in ways that defied conventional space combat doctrine. "All ships, activate point defense systems. Prepare for missile impact." The battle that followed was unlike anything in galactic military history. The human missiles struck the alien fleet in waves, each one timed to exploit weaknesses in their defensive formations. But these were not the crude nuclear warheads from their previous encounter. These missiles carried payloads that no civilized species would ever develop. "Sir, we are detecting antimatter signatures," the science officer shouted over the alarms. "The humans are using antimatter weapons." "Impossible. Antimatter is banned by galactic treaty." "Tell that to the humans, sir." The antimatter warheads tore through the alien fleet like fire through paper. Ships that had survived for millennia vanished in bursts of annihilating energy. Others were crippled by electromagnetic pulses that fried their electronics. A few fell victim to exotic weapons that seemed to ignore the laws of physics entirely. "Damage report," Gorthak demanded. "We have lost 800 ships in the first wave. The humans are launching a second volley." But the second wave was different. Instead of missiles, the humans launched something far more terrifying: themselves. Hundreds of small ships accelerated toward the alien fleet at incredible speeds. Each one was piloted by volunteers who had no intention of returning home. Admiral Chen watched the battle from her command ship, hidden deep within the asteroid belt. The first phase had exceeded all expectations. The aliens were reeling from losses they had never imagined possible. But the real test was yet to come. Phase 2. "Execute," she ordered. Across the solar system, weapons that had been hidden for months suddenly activated. The asteroid belt itself came alive as thousands of concealed installations opened fire. What the aliens had assumed were natural rock formations revealed themselves to be weapons platforms built into the asteroids themselves. "Sir, we are under attack from the asteroid field," the tactical officer reported. "Massive energy signatures throughout the belt." "How is this possible?" "Our sensors showed nothing. They have hidden their installations inside actual asteroids. Our sensors read them as natural formations." The hidden weapons were devastating. Particle beams carved through alien hulls like laser cutters. Gravity bombs created artificial black holes that consumed entire squadrons. Most terrifying of all were the human planet crackers, weapons originally designed for mining that had been converted into ship killers. As the alien fleet reeled from this new assault, Admiral Chen activated the third phase of Earth's defense. On Mars' massive launch, tubes fired their ultimate surprise: kinetic kill. Vehicles made from collapsed matter and accelerated to significant fractions of light speed. These projectiles were not missiles in any conventional sense. They were pure physics, unstoppable masses moving at velocities that made interception impossible. When they struck alien ships, the results were catastrophic. No shield could stop them. No armor could deflect them. They simply punched through everything in their path like bullets through tissue paper. "Sir, we have lost over 3,000 ships," Gorthak's aide reported, his voice cracking with panic. "The humans are using weapons we have never encountered. Our tactical computers cannot predict their attack patterns." "Impossible," Gorthak snarled. "They are primitives." "Sir, incoming transmission from the Zephyrian command ship." The ancient being's crystal form appeared on screen, pulsing with angry energy. "Commander Gorthak, what is your status?" We are encountering unexpected resistance, Gorthak admitted. The humans have prepared more extensively than anticipated. Expected casualties were minimal, the Zephyrian replied coldly. Current losses are unacceptable. Finish this quickly. Yes, High One. But finishing quickly was no longer possible. The human defenders fought with a savagery and creativity that defied all predictions. They used the solar system itself as a weapon, turning planets into shields and moons into ammunition depots. They employed tactics that no civilized species would consider. Ramming attacks, suicide runs, and weapons designed purely for destruction. Most importantly, they refused to fight fair. Every engagement was an ambush. Every victory came at a cost the aliens had never expected to pay. The humans were not trying to win in any traditional sense. They were trying to make their enemies bleed. The battle raged for 6 days. When it finally ended, High Commander Gorthak found himself in command of fewer than 4,000 intact vessels. The greatest military force in galactic history had been cut in half by a species that still used chemical rockets for basic transportation. As his battered fleet limped away from the Sol system, Gorthak realized that everything had changed. The humans had not just won a battle. They had shattered the fundamental assumptions that held galactic civilization together. News of the impossible victory spread across the galaxy at light speed. Species that had served the Council for millions of years began to question why they needed protection from beings who could be defeated by primitives. Younger civilizations saw the human example and realized that resistance was possible. Within months, the Galactic Council faced rebellions on dozens of worlds. The Talari Confederacy declared independence. The Nexus colonies stopped paying tribute. Ancient trade agreements were torn up as species demanded equality rather than protection. The old order was crumbling. A year after the Battle of Sol, Ambassador Elena Rodriguez walked into the council chamber once again. But this time she was not asking for membership. She was dictating terms. The Earth Coalition offers partnership to all species willing to embrace true equality, she announced to the assembled delegates. The age of protection through domination is over. We offer cooperation between equals, sharing of technology and resources, and mutual defense against genuine threats. The chamber was silent. Many of the old council members were no longer present. Some had been overthrown by their own people, others had simply given up and withdrawn from galactic affairs. And if we refuse? Asked the Zephyrian, its crystal form dim and fractured.